Hello everybody, this is Tom. I am known to many of you on Twitch as Fantasia WHT. My MTGO handle, which has been around much longer, is Meldil. While I'm waiting for a Amonkhet Hour of Devastation draft to start, 6, 7, 8 players in the queue. Meldil is a name that comes from books by C.S. Lewis, his space trilogy, if you ever want to check them out. It starts with Out of the Silent Planet. Here we are in, and well, we've got a Stone Cold Bomb in this first pack. Obviously, we're going to take that. I'll reserve it now. Looking through the rest of the pack, Consigned to Oblivion is very good. It's in the same kind of Grixis colors that you'd like to be in a control deck that starts out with Locust God if you're going to have a third color at all. Merciless Eternal is fine as an uncommon, although several of the commons are better. Sand Strangler is probably the best uncommon. I would be picking that if it were not for Locust God. Among the commons, we've got not a whole lot. We've got some medium removal in Torment. Aven of Enduring Hope is a solid playable in a white deck, as is Dauntless Aven. Dauntless Aven can be particularly good in any deck with a lot of exert creatures, typically white-green or white-red. First picking deserts is something I've heard people talk about a lot, but obviously we do not need to discuss that here. I'll go right ahead and grab that Locust God. In our second pack, ideally we'd like to still be blue-red, and in those colors there's two strong picks. Unquenchable Thirst, a lot of people think is the best uncommon. It's certainly up there. As long as you get a couple deserts to go with it, it's quite good. It's 2 mana quasi-removal of anything. There's also Riddleform, though. Riddleform plays out extremely well in a red-blue spells deck, which is where we'd kind of like to be. If blue and red were not considerations here, I'd be quite sad, because the rest of this pack is extremely poor. Unsummon is probably the next best card after that. Frontline Devastator. Also good, just a solid aggressive 4-drop. Can play defense if it needs to, although not terribly well. Liliana's Defeat, very good, strong sideboard card. But I think we're going to go with the Riddleform here, because if we're going to end up blue-red, we really want to be casting spells. And I'm more likely to see more Unquenchable Thirsts later than Riddleforms. Next up, River HOU-HOU jumps out to me immediately as a very strong spell, a creature, especially in a green ramp deck that's looking to go a long game and get a lot of value and draw through decks looking for bombs. Spellweaver Eternal is also another card that goes really well with this blue-red spells deck we're thinking about here. I'm not positive I'm going to be blue-red spells. I could be blue something else, splash red. If I felt strongly about that, I might grab the River HOU-HOU. If I felt strongly I was in red, I might grab the Desert. But since I know I'm going to be blue, and I've got a card here that's aggressive in any kind of deck, but also goes very well in blue-red, I'm going to be grabbing the Spellweaver Eternal. Looking through here, we see strong green card and Rampaging Hippo might be a sign that green is open. Could shift into blue-green. Wonder of wonders if that HOU-HOU wheel, that'd be quite amazing. Cunning Survivor is not the kind of card I want in this deck. Defiant Candor is extremely poor. I'm looking between Desert of the Fervent and Unsummon here. That is the second red desert to come by, which is a good sign that red is open. On the other hand, I haven't seen good other red cards coming around, which may indicate that people in this pool just don't like deserts as much as they probably should. But I'm going to go with Unsummon. It does a lot of powerful things. It protects your own creatures from removal. Kills tokens. Oh, I'm going to grab a second Riddleform here. I was actually just playing in a sealed tournament where my opponent had double Riddleform on turn 2 and turn 3, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. It's a fantastic card. And right now we're not looking at anything in our two colors except for this Granitic Titan. Granitic Titan is an okay card. I'd rather not play one if I don't have to, but it can be a fine curve topper. Other options are taking a black desert, or perhaps the green Sidewinder Naga, although this is not the kind of deck I'm looking at right now. There are not There's one very good non-creature spell here, but it's not in a blue color. I'd have to be 3 colors to be playing that. That's not where I want to be. Think I'm gonna stay with the red for a bit. It's also, because it's a 2-mana cycler, it will play well if I use red as a splash color. Here I'm going to play Unsummon again. Pairing Unsummons with Riddleforms can be very, very powerful. If that were not here, Tragic Lesson is playable in this blue-red spells deck, although we're not getting a whole lot of red in it. Here I have options. This is the last set of new cards I'm going to see. Crypt of the Eternals. If that blue-black Consigned to Oblivion came back, I'd like to have something like this. I don't know that I'm going to be red. I could wind up being black. There's more black that has been coming around than red. Kindled Fury is certainly an option, but it's a replaceable combat trick. And I think right now I'd rather grab the land on the off chance I wind up blue-black. And having lands is always good because it gives, yeah, see, there we go. Having lands is good, gives you the ability to play more of the cards you pick in your packs. Traveler's Amulet here, if I knew I was splashing more. But this Consign to Oblivion, Consign is essentially another unsummon effect, even if I'm not in black. But when paired with the black, it's quite good. So we'll grab that. Coming around here, I have the choice of Cunning Survivor or Defiant Kenra, or a sideboard Liliana's Defeat. I'd like to take the strong sideboard card. I could wind up very strongly blue and a splash, or lightly in red or black with a splash. And I perhaps might go blue-red and then sideboard into blue-black. That's a possibility, so I'm going to grab this, put it in my sideboard. Here come some stronger black cards. I actually like Merciless Eternal Fairmount. I do not like Grisly Survivor. Do not like Lurching Rotbeast. I could take the Strategic Planning, but I'm going to go with 3-drop here. Nothing here I really want. Graven Abomination against maybe a God Pharaoh's Gift kind of deck. Desperation sideboard move is nothing I'd like to do. And see, here comes back that other Strategic Planning from before, which will go into my deck for now, although may not finish there. And I really love the art in these Hour of Devastation full art lands. It's a big improvement over the Battle for Zendikar full art lands. And here we have a gigantic spell in Razaketh. Razaketh is an 8-drop. It is very, very powerful. Getting to 8 is crazy difficult, especially in a deck that's not green based. You're looking here at trying to get nearly half of your lands, so going through half of your deck to get to it. Other than that, Banewith Punisher is probably the strongest card in the pack. Ambuscade is arguably up there, as is Desert of the Glorified, but I currently don't have any Desert synergies. I'll note that the Unquenchable Thirst didn't wheel. I wouldn't expect it to. Banewith Punisher is a very strong pick here. Another one might be Manalith. Red is looking less and less likely, and if I'm going to be splashing for Locust God, then I want something like a Manalith. But Banewith Punisher is just too good to take to set aside for a Manalith. And here, Bonus's Last Stand is excellent, but obviously not something we can play. Lethal Sting, more removal and more ways to turn on Riddleform. I'm liking that. Unsummon, I think Lethal Sting's obviously strictly better is not the right thing to say because they're not doing the same kind of things, but Lethal Sting is just generally a stronger card. Fervent Paincaster is quite good, but now I'm being torn between red and black, and since I've picked up this would be a 3rd strong black card, I'm leaning much more towards blue-black, splashing red, so I'll grab the Lethal Sting. Looking next here, I'm going to take Riddleform number 3 because they are excellent in multiples. Obviously, the Scry is not great in multiples. In fact, the Scry does literally nothing in multiples. But they trigger each other, and when they each trigger off of spells being cast, that's even better. It's a fantastic pickup. Here, what are we looking at? Not a good pack for us. We've got 2 very mediocre 4-drops in Carrion Screecher and Lurching Rot Beast. I would give Carrion Screecher the nod over here just because flying and evasion is going to get me a little farther, I think, than Lurching Rot Beast. On the other hand, cycling does help me find red lands for splashing that Locust God. I would not pick a Gilded Ceradon at this point, I don't think, especially since I haven't been picking up the deserts, and there's nothing else here I want. I'm leaning towards that Lurching Rot Beast. I could see Carrion Screecher being a better argument. I already have 3 riddle forms to fly over and the Locust God, though. I'm going to try to grab this Rot Beast, although very well may not make the cut in the final deck, and neither would the Carrion Screecher likely. Here, great, now we're seeing red deck. Oh, hey, look, there's another riddle form. Alright, this is the quadruple riddle form deck. I think this may be, I'm just saying triple-goblinslide. People hopefully listening understand what that means. If you don't, just look it up. This is, yeah, we're doing this. We're doing this. What are we doing? Cunning Survivor? No. Strategic Planning? Yeah, probably in this. We're going to look at cards. We're going to throw stuff into the graveyard. I don't know if there's anything we want in the graveyard yet. No, not really. Oh, the Consigned to Oblivion would be okay in the graveyard. Cunning Survivor is not going to do a whole lot in our deck. Strategic Planning finds us our riddle forms, finds us our red sources, triggers riddle forms. Yeah, we're doing that. Here, we're facing the exact same the exact same choice we just faced a couple picks ago with Carrion Screecher versus Rot Beast. Crash Through is not something I would play in this deck, even if I was blue-red, very likely, unless I had a lot more of the red 2-drops, the blue 2-drops. If I had a couple more Spellweaver Eternals, you know, this would be just a fine filler card. I think I would rather have the first Carrion Screecher versus the second Rot Beast. So let's do that. Proven Combatant, Grizzly Survivor, neither of them strong. All these white cards, you know, being cut off on this side a bit, but our deck is still turning out well, even if we're going to wind up a little short in playables out of this second pack here. Given 2 strategic plannings, Proven Combatants actually get slightly better because you toss them in the graveyard, and a 6-mana 4/4 is not a card you're ever excited to play, not a card you pretty much would ever play unless you were desperate. But if you're throwing stuff in your graveyard, you're just getting a little extra value for it. I would think about playing this, although I would be looking for things to cut here. It's a clear Desert of the Glorified, even though we don't have the desert synergies we might be looking for. Having cycling lands, 1 or 2 of them, is always something any deck will play. I guess gonna have to say no to the pretty foil island there, but we're taking desert. Here, nothing for us. I'm not gonna hate draft. I'll bring in another Graven Abomination against a very odd deck. And hey, I will take another Unsummon here. If I'm playing against any kind of creature decks, which 95% of limited decks are, this will be great. Obviously, these get worse if I'm playing against some kind of control deck that has hexproof things like Scaled Behemoth and the blue cycling Serpent. Here, just gonna grab something to stop other people without weakness. I don't have a whole lot of creatures I can cast that on, but I'll bring it into the sideboard in case something goes terribly, terribly wrong in pack 3. More sideboard material. Throw that in there. Things I'm looking to get rid of. These 4-drops are quite bad. I would not mind bigger, fatter blue or black creatures to replace the Granitic Titan. Did not see another Manolith or Traveler's Amulet unless I missed one in getting all my excited riddle form grabs here. Where are we looking here? Dispossess is not a playable card in Limited. This is not a good pack for us at all. Lay Bare the Heart is a reasonable hand disruption spell. Pitiless Vizier is okay in a cycling deck, which this is not. Decision Paralysis. It might be the pick here. I did want more 4-drops. Not thrilled with it. I think Lay Bare the Heart might be better. In this situation, Decision Paralysis is obviously better in tempo decks when I'm trying to swing and get through. I guess it would be a good sideboard card against decks with lots of other flyers if I struggled to get my riddle forms through. I think we'll go with Lay Bare the Heart if I'm playing against decks with Flyers. Flyers have higher CMCs than anything else, so therefore it's easier to pick them off with something like Lay Bare the Heart. Let's grab that. And gonna kind of have two options here. I don't think Cascading Cataracts is a real option. Let's say three options. First option, Painted Bluffs. Painted Bluffs would help me cast Locust God, which is definitely something I would like to do. I would like to have a second, probably third piece of fixing. I'm thinking of One Mountain, Painted Bluffs, Crypt. With the Cyclers, help gets there. Riddleform Scrying helps get there. My other two options are Shimmer Scale Drake, which is just a solid 5-drop. Has cycling if you're having problems hitting your lands. And there's also Wander in Death, which is an excellent return spell. This one's pretty tough. I will be throwing stuff into the graveyard, so Wander in Death gets better. I don't have a lot of creatures, so that makes Wander in Death worse. I have only I have 2 cycling creatures. Kind of leaning towards the Painted Bluffs right now because I'd really like to play the Locust God, and I'm at 20 cards, although, I'm not blue-red. See, I wish I was blue-red like I kind of wanted to be at the beginning. But I think there's a pretty clear Seeker of Insight here. It's excellent in this kind of deck I'm building that already has 12 non-creature spells. And will let me loot through, help me find my red, help me find my Locust God, help me find my Riddleforms, and occasion block 2/1s early in the game. I would like to be able to take a Wander in Death. Maybe one of the two of those will wheel if I'm lucky. Sad to see that Enigma Drake go, though, but red was never really coming our direction. Ooh, we have our choice of Ancient Crabs here. Do we want Shiny Shelly or not Shiny Shelly? Neither of them. We're taking Evolving Wilds here. That's a clear pickup. That gives us 4 red sources if we play One Mountain, which is excellent in here. That may make Painted Bluffs unnecessary at this point. Painted Bluffs, of course, does make your spells cost 1 more if you're using it to fix for a color. That's always a problem. Now here we've got Shadow of the Grave, which is also unplayable. Vizier, which is excellent. It's mana ramp. It fixes, it unexerts your exert creatures if you have any. I said mana ramps. Essence Scatter is very good. I would play Heckma Sentinels in a deck like this, so I don't think I need it. And of course, there's another Wander in Death here. So I'm really thinking one of these is gonna, one of these will wheel. Vizier is a fairly premium 3-drop in this, although I'm not really ramping to a whole lot, but still I can get quite a bit done. I don't think I'm going to be playing the Granitic Titan at all now because I'm not going to be able to cast double red at kind of any point here. Another that rare showing up once more. Festering Mummy or Horror of the Broken Lands. I would like to have a couple more big fatties just to kind of hold down the ground as needed. So I think I will grab Horror. If there's an argument for Luxor River Shrine here in this Riddleform deck, but I don't think that's quite right. If I was struggling for playables, I might do something like that, but not quite at that point. Here, Trespasser's Curse actually has gotten better in Hour of Devastation because games go longer. But I think still the pick here is Shimmer Scale Drake. It does 2 things I've been talking about, which is that's just kind of a nice 5-drop for the later game, but it also cycles if I need. Here we have Grim Strider, Painful Lesson, Doom Dissenter, Supernatural Stamina. All cards I would play in a deck. It was Compelling Argument. No, not Compelling Argument here. This is not... I'm not that deep. Grim Strider is definitely a strong card. I'm going to be... I'm looking through. I wish I had some more card draw spells, but Locust God obviously is a card draw spell. Painful Lesson will be the other option. That's actually pretty tough. They're both pretty good in this situation. I'm going to just go towards make my Riddleforms better. Grimstrider might be better in that situation. I think I would like to hear other people's opinions. Hey, Decision Paralysis Wield. Let me grab it. I don't know if I'll play it. Doom Dissenter, Cascading Cataracts. Well, for 7 mana, it would let me cast my Locust God. I don't think that's what I want to do, though. You want to have a Cascading Cataracts if you have, like, a Naga Vitalist, maybe. Or if you're in one of those green 5-color decks, I'll grab the Doom Dissenter. Well, you know what? Doom Dissenter's not making my deck. Well, it might against an aggro deck, but it's going to start in the sideboard. Wandering Death. Good, one of those came back. That's great. I will throw that in there. Hey, both of the crabs came back. I will take Shiny Shelly. Sorry, non-Shiny Shelly. I will grab a rare just in case there's ever anything that... I think there was a... What was a Legacy deck? Something. I think there was a Legacy deck that was running Shadow of the Grave. They were trying it out before. Maybe it was even Vintage. I'm not positive. I don't follow Legacy or Vintage enough to know for certain, but I remember hearing that card being talked about. Alright, so we are going into deck building with 27 cards here, and I am thinking, despite curve considerations, really I'm going to be casting multiple spells per turn because I've got so many cheap ones. Honestly, I could see a lot of turn 4s going with a 1-drop and a 2-drop, or 2 2-drops, or a 3-drop and a 1-drop. I may not want to be tapping all my mana out because I have the unsummons, 3 unsummons, and the consign and the decision paralysis. I won't care about tapping out for, but riddle form mana, unsummons, and the Consign to Oblivion are all instants I would want to be doing on my opponent's turn. Banewhip Punisher's ability, something I might do on other opponent's turn. Cycling Vizier is another thing to do. So Crab is not actually going to be in the deck. We'll go down on that. Proven Combatant is probably on the high side of things I'm going to be getting rid of. Talked about getting rid of the Painted Bluffs. I think it's good here because I have a lot of cycling and other ways to go through my deck and help me find that I don't think I need a 4th source. So I think I'm going to be going with Crypt, Evolving Wilds, and 1 Mountain to splash the Locust God. So things I'm considering cutting would be Proven Combatant, possibly Spellweaver Eternal, because I don't think I'm as aggressive as I originally thought I was, but on the other hand, with 4 Riddle Forms, I'm going to be attacking on turn 3 for 3 in the air fairly frequently. I probably significantly greater than half my games. If I had a hypergeometric calculator handy, I could figure out what are the odds of drawing 2 lands and 1 blue mana, and at least one of my Riddle Forms by turn 2, and having something to cast turn 3 that's a non-creature spell. Probably pretty high. I mean, the Riddle Form, I've got 4 of them, so, 1 out of every 10 cards is a Riddle Form. By turn 3, I've seen 9 or 10 cards, so I probably will have seen it in every game. And it's just a question of the lands and having the other spells. So I definitely do not mind having something else that's going to be attacking on turn 2, though it's not a good blocker. 3 drops, Merciless Eternal again. Let me just pull these, all of these over here. Merciless Eternal is much more of an aggressive card. Obviously, anything with Afflict is going to be aggressive. The discard mechanic is something that can work on defense, but it's going to be better on offense most of the time. Then we got Lurching Rot Beast and the Carrion Screecher. I think Carrion Screecher is the first one to go. I have plenty of flying in Riddle Form and the Shimmer Scale Drake and the Locust God. The 3/1 body can be quite vulnerable to things like Banewhip Punisher, or Blur of Blades, or Blazing Volley, or Splendid Agony. That gets us down to 25. I should think now, where do I want to be in number of lands? Well, if I cycle my big drops, my curve essentially stops at 4 with the exception of Locust God. So I'm definitely looking at no more than 17. The question is, do I want 16? So how many cyclers do I actually have? 1, 2. It's a cycler, although I would rather not cycle it if I don't have to. Painful Lesson itself is essentially a cycler. Vizier cycles, but I would rather not. Strategic Planning draws me cards, helps me hit my land drops for 2 mana, which is quite good. Riddle Form technically scries, although if I'm at that point, I've already hit my 3 land drops to cast most of my spells anyway. But at that point, Evolving Wilds, of course, will actually remove a land out of my deck, so it may thin it too much if I'm down to 16. I think I'd like to be 17 in this one because I am going to be drawing extra cards. I'm going to be wanting. I do have mana sinks in the Scry and the Locust God, so I think 17 is where I want to be on that. Put these back where they were. Painful Lesson is possibly a cut, although I think in this deck with all the riddle forms, it's the kind of thing you want. A Decision Paralysis is also a possible cut. So I've got to get 2 more out of these. Punisher is excellent. Lethal Sting is excellent. Proven Combatant is kind of only good if I am putting it in the graveyard with strategic planning. I really don't want to have to be casting it. I think that's going to be my first cut, although I can see sideboarding it in against an aggressive deck as a simple early blocker that may trade for a 2/1 or at least chump and come back later for real value. And among these, I have a million. Let's see. Cards I'm going to cast actually on turn 2. It's going to be these 6 cards. I will almost always want to cast it immediately on turn 2. So that's a fair number. I could definitely see cutting Spellweaver Eternal out of there. I forgot Lurching Rot Beast in my cuts. In my cyclers. I don't think that's going to change my calculation, though. I'm really not a fan of Lurching Rot Beast. We're going to toss that. That leaves us with our 23 cards. Let's take a look at our mana base. Looks like we're much heavier on the blue. Yep, almost twice as much blue. Lots of black. We have the 1 black desert. Crypt will tap for anything if we really, really needed to, although, again, like the Painted Bluffs, it's worth pointing out, this does make things cost 1 more mana if you need it for the fixing. I would say it's still strictly better in this deck, though, because I have absolutely no need. They're functionally identical if you don't need to cast green or white, and the Crypt gives you a life when you enter. Unlikely to be meaningful, but could possibly in the end. That's a split. So I think we're looking at, let's see, we got 14 lands to add. I think we want to be heavy on the blue. We have to have 1 red. So 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's enough for the black, actually. Let's see, 8, 9, and possibly 10 for the blue. That seems fine. I could go down to that, because I do have 2 and 3 drops in black that I want to be able to cast. Only 1 black one, and blue really does give me the extra card draw in the strategic planning, so I do not want to be missing on blue. This gives me 7, 8. Let's just call that 8.5, because it doesn't really, if it's my second land, it does not help me cast a blue 2-drop. I think I want to go back up to make sure I can cast riddle forms always on turn 2 strategic plannings if I have them immediately afterwards on turn 3 to help me get to my my additional land ups in my black. So that we're going to go 8-5-1, which, like I said, will give us 8, 9, 9.5 blue sources, 5, 6, 7, 7.5 blue sources, 1, 2, 3 blue sources, or 3 red sources. You could call it 2.5, doesn't really matter. We're only looking to cast 1 card very late in the game. So that is it for now. I'm going to save this. This is the first time I've ever recorded anything. I want to keep the video fairly short. So thanks for listening. I would love to hear any comments you have on individual picks or the build for this. Thanks for listening. Wish me luck.